problem is we are going to a digital currency society where cash will be gradually eradicated, either through non-use or a lot of countries and a lot of governments are trying to actively ban it. So they're putting limits on how much you can use cash. Say, $1,000, and if it's more than $1,000, using cash is illegal. When we go to the society, we have to really think about the implications. Do we want a society in which our digital money is under complete surveillance and complete control, where if you go to the wrong protest, or if you support the wrong political campaign, or if you make a payment to the wrong person or receive money from the wrong person, suddenly your money disappears. It's no longer yours anymore. It's frozen, it's seized, it's gone. And someone has control of that. Corporations, banks, governments, and in most cases, there is no difference between corporation, bank, and government, right? And so that's one scenario. And the other scenario is one in which individuals control their money. And it is digital money, but it's digital cash like Bitcoin, where you can pay an individual from one person to another, just like I can with cash today, without any other party getting involved. What really strikes me as amazing is that we've gotten used to this idea so quickly, which is that we no longer pay people. We no longer pay people directly. The less we use cash, the more we pay people through a corporation, right? So from tipping your valet to tipping your taxi driver to tipping wherever, tipping is pretty much the last remaining part of our society where cash is used to pay one person who is not an incorporated entity to another person who is not an incorporated entity. Everything else you have to pay through a corporation, whether it's a bank, right? Whether it's Venmo, whether it's PayPal, whether it's any of those things. And we've gradually gotten used to this environment where we can't pay another person unless there's a corporation involved. And that's astonishing to me. And as cash disappears, that then becomes a final fact, that every single payment in your life will be from you to a corporation.
And the corporation takes a piece of that, every single thing.
And not just that, it doesn't just take a piece, it also controls and surveils and monitors your use. And if you violate the terms and conditions, you are destitute. So the issue is not what we have today versus the digital currency of the future or Bitcoin or whatever. It's both futures are digital currency, and in both futures, cash will no longer exist. That is inevitable. We are going down that road, and now we have to choose. Do we go to the digital cashless society of corporate control over money with the complete and total merging of corporate and state money, where instead of having separation of state and money, you have the merging of state and money and corporation and money, where your money is branded money. You have Chase dollars, you have Goldman Sachs dollars, you have Coca-Cola dollars, right? You have money that is controlled by a corporation. Or do we go down the other future, where we have money that is basically an internet protocol that is completely global, that any person can pay any person, they meet in the streets without any corporations getting involved, just from me to you, digital cash. And that's really it's a less optimistic view, because I'm fully aware of what the other future is, and it's already playing out. And it is in my opinion, a very dangerous future.
Bruce Mai, when I put that video up, I was going to say, if you've been living under a financial rock, this is Andreas Antonopoulos. Now, I think it's your lucky day, Bruce Mai, actually, because this is like one of those, have you ever, back in the Sopranos days when you like binge watched the whole 5 seasons of Sopranos and you were talking about it and someone didn't know and you're like, you've never seen Sopranos? Man, you're in for like 5 seasons of amazing storytelling and TV. Anyway, if you don't know who Andreas Antonopoulos, he is the GOAT of Bitcoin. There's no one better or smarter, in my opinion, than Andreas. I would put him up against anything. And in fact, everyone is a disciple of Andreas Antonopoulos. So Bruce Mai, if you've never seen him, think about how old this is. I think that was 2017. Now to be 2017. Anyway, it was a whole timeline ahead of its own time. So you can go back to the Joe Rogan, put on Andreas Antonopoulos and Joe Rogan. And there's a bunch of shorts, but watch the video. That was my first foray into Bitcoin. Now, it didn't sell me on it because I was too stupid back then. I hadn't grasped it. it was too abstract for me to fully immerse myself with the concept. But I always remembered that episode. I was pretty deep into the Joe Rogan. I would say like 2015, 2018. That was my peak JRE years where I would religiously watch them or listen to them. I think I'd listen to them more than watch them. But that was one of the ones that always kind of lingered in. What the hell was that, Andreas Antonopoulos? And then when I got deeper and deeper and deeper into Bitcoin, I obviously went back, rewatched it many times. The sad part is that he has a relatively small channel. And when I mean small, I mean it's magnitudes bigger than this channel. But for the amount of Bitcoin alpha this guy puts into the world, I think he's like, maybe something's happened since the last time I checked out his channel, but I think it was like 200 to 300,000 subs. Now that's a crying shame. Now you have all these other kind of affiliate link YouTube Bitcoin people that have millions, they're just shilling altcoins. Meanwhile, Andreas Antonopoulos has 200 or 300,000. He's the GOAT. There's no one better than Andreas. And even like someone like Michael Saylor, I bet you most of his training was from Andreas Antonopoulos. There's a million clips from his, not only Joe Rogan, but he has like, this is the funny thing, guy. I've joked about this where, if I had a girlfriend back in the day, they would leave at 11 a.m. to go wherever to work. They'd come back. When they left, I'd be watching like some sort of 240p Holiday Inn banquet cowboy shot of this seminar. And then 3 hours later they'd come back and I'm still watching it because they were like 4 or 5 hours of amazing information. That's why information is key in YouTube. Doesn't matter how many bells and whistles you have. If you have the right information, you'll probably do well, which goes against the size of Andreas's channel because there's no better information out there than Andreas Antonopoulos. Now, what do we have here for... All of a sudden, everything went away. Come on. Oh, yeah. Now, I was about to say I don't usually agree with Peter Schiff, but I do. I feel his hard money, sound money, gold principles, are the foundations, the fundamentals of Bitcoin. But I don't agree with what he says about Bitcoin. I do agree with everything he says about gold and hard money. But this tweet, he has some good points on this one. Let's take a look at it. Oh, that's the pomp one, of course. Peter Schiff. In response to Israel launching an airstrike against Iran, gold is up another $24 in early Asian trading, back above 3,400. It's pretty crazy, gold 3,400. Bitcoin, on the other hand, just tanked below 104K. Now, Bitcoin's always going to be affected by geopolitical strife, especially, pseudo war. Priced in gold, Bitcoin is now more than 15% below its November 2021 peak. Is that true? Priced in gold? Geez, I don't know if that's true. Anyway, Bitcoin's failure to rise against gold despite over 3.5 years of hype, including a dozen ETFs, Super Bowl ads, El Salvador, NFTs, tens of billions. Holy smokes. Got a surprise here. Tens of billions of leverage buying by MSTR, other Bitcoin treasury companies, the election of a Bitcoin president, and the establishment of a Bitcoin strategic reserve is strong evidence that the bubble has peaked. Now, what I like about his tweet is that it kind of encapsulates what a lot of us are feeling right now about price action. So just to reiterate, dozen ETFs, Super Bowl ads, El Salvador, NFTs, tens of billions of leverage buying of a MicroStrategy, other Bitcoin's treasury companies, like every Bitcoin strategy company, election of the Bitcoin president, and the establishment of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And still, the price dumps on, the threat of war. Meanwhile, gold goes up. That's a lot of good points there from Peter Schiff. Strong evidence that the bubble has peaked. I don't think the bubble has peaked by any means, but a major top has been formed. We're always forming major tops. That's just the way charts work. As Bitcoin has been distributed from strong to weak hands, the whales have been cashing out to latecomers who will be left holding the bag. Classic Peter Schiff. love him or hate him, he's got some good hard money principles that will never go away. Guess what, guys? Can you believe it? I don't have your audio though.
Hopefully my sound works.
Turning on echo
How am I coming over?
cancellation. Now, hopefully it works. Yeah, I think it does. We'll wait for the chat. Druth, how's it going?
Was up till like 4 o'clock in the morning, doing emergency live streams and all that stuff. And this is something we were warning about in my Discord on Monday. We saw oil prices spiking, military hardware moving around, and seen a lot of nuclear sniffing here in the United States. So it is unfortunate that we are here, but shout out, Bitcoin didn't break below 100. Come on now, Peter. I would have expected we broke below 100 on the news, honestly.
Yeah, there are some good 101. I said yesterday was a pretty good support bounce. I think we went down to 102.7. The strange thing is about these, there are no coincidences or reactions. You know how the media likes to play that we're doing this because of this, we're doing this because of this. As well as probably everyone in your community, these are planned way ahead of time. So what we're seeing is something that they have to play out.
Yeah, I mean, remember, we saw Kash Patel and the State Department heads talking about how important it was to remind everyone that Israel is our biggest ally, and on a cultural level, some fever pitch in regards to their handling of Gaza. So over the last few months, we've seen kind of a PR campaign. And now, of course, right after this attack goes down from Israel, and now Iran's going to be in conflict. Like America is moving military hardware into the hands of Israel for this, and we have the military parade this weekend. Honestly, man, like in the fog of the civil unrest that's been kicking off, I'm very much so watching out for sleeper cells here in the U.S. Because they have that kind of fog of confusion and unrest that's already kind of unraveled in our city centers. So
I've seen a couple things that have piqued my interest. So there's a guy from Winnipeg who's in LA right now, and he's a really woke lefty. We're not really friends, but we go way back. Anyway, some of his posts have been how he's in LA and he can't run into these protests. And he says as much as he's been watching the media and that they're all over the place, he's in downtown LA and he says it's really confined to these small little theaters, he said. What do you think about that? Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I mean, it is. There is truth to it. There's a lot of different cities that they're doing them in, but there's not this isn't an organic movement. This is the same type of thing that was funded and started the BLM movements. And at a point, like you have the Kindle, like these non-organic funded movements are the tinder in the flame, and if you can get it to a big enough point, it'll catch the environment around itself on fire. But they have to start it with this inorganic paid actor flame and then hope that it catches, wind with the rest of society, and then they really start rolling with it. So, it is kind of the front end. It's the same funding pattern that we saw from BLM. And it's actually a lot of this money comes from the Inflation Reduction Act. Where Biden basically used our tax dollars to send hundreds of millions of dollars to the same NGOs and good old George, to fund the next round, So this is stuff that we've been covering for years on the basement, as far as this co-opted, fever pitch, using the Iran and Gaza conflict as that next BLM movement. Now it's here. We'll see how far that conversation really can go if people are going to take the bait the same way they did last time.
Another weird thing up here in Kanadistan is that we have a different relationship with Israel. So when I watch the relationship with Israel and America, and I know this is I'm just getting this from the elected psychopathic elites and then the sycophant population that just agree with whatever they say. But I'm wondering why the fever pitch with this ally thing with Israel, because in Kanadistan, we don't have that propaganda swirling around on a daily basis that Israel is this, Israel is that, Israel is this. To the majority of Canadians, it's just another country. But I get the feeling in the States, it really isn't just another country to the psychopathic elected elites. What's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, they are the. I want to be careful with how I say this on your YouTube. They're the stem point for historic monetary control across pretty much every central bank. And with that, we know that war is a game of resources, a game of control. Lining up and setting ourselves up this way with them on a cultural level, I feel like has been done to make it more culturally acceptable to see them attempt to expand into what's been talked about as Greater Israel. Greater Israel includes multiple parts of countries all around Israel that they look to expand their territory into well beyond Gaza. So, but it is such a tough subject matter for me to on the side of this, because I also don't like Iran. I don't like that Iran's been trying to hack our energy infrastructure for the last 3 decades. Me personally, I am what they would call an infidel, and I don't really line up with that. I don't know how to say this the nice way. I am on the other side of the fence when it comes to Iran. So it's like I have two nations that I don't have a dog in their fight, but apparently America has a dog in their fight. So the system, I can't stop the system from doing what it's going to do. And if I have a hard iron to my head and I have to pick between the two, I'm going with Israel over Iran. But I very much so dislike Israel, which should tell you how much I dislike Iran. So it's tough. It's a really tough spot.
Yeah, I saw that Ian Carroll video. He was kind of narrating the new Netanyahu documentary that was kind of banned everywhere, but it's now streaming in certain places. It's a weird one. Did you catch that Ian Carroll episode?
No, I follow Ian Carroll's work though. I haven't seen that episode. What I will say is that their intelligence agencies are over in Israel are some of the most highly technologically advanced on the planet. And you think about that in terms of the size of the country. They are a very small country with very big cyber kinetic abilities. And like what we saw yesterday with that internet down moment, I don't think that was Iran. I think that was probably their intelligence agencies on the Israeli side. Basically AWS, cloud, Google, all of it kind of had like this flash down moment in aggregate yesterday, and we've seen some of these attempts or these tests on electrical infrastructure, or really internet infrastructure. It's so hard to know, because this is where misinformation is going to be all over the place. What I can say is that our internet infrastructure is strong. Our electrical transmission infrastructure here in the U.S. is weak, and that the real weakness that we face here in America is that we haven't upgraded our electrical infrastructure to the points that we need it to be at. So, that's why the sleeper. I don't want to get your channel banned, with the sleepers. That's where I'm.
I think we might have lost Ruth. He might be going under in an elevator in his car. You've locked up a bit. We'll continue. We'll keep you in the box here. If, for instance, you lose, if you can still hear me, maybe call again and I'll look for it, or maybe you'll come back. I don't know. Oh yeah, I see it kind of moving.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. Are you driving through an elevator?
I'm driving through the woods.
There you go. You're back
through the
now.
woods here. Yeah, I'm driving through the woods. I kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, so.
We didn't get that last minute of what you were saying.
Yeah, just I'm making sure my generators are topped off, making sure my gasoline's ready to go. You know, I mean, it's great that we're in crypto, and you know, honestly, like this is the balance of being a hillbilly in crypto. It's like I'm very rooted in old school ways, but then also keeping up with what crypto is. And I would just implore anyone that has the capacity to do it to just make sure your generators are working, make sure your gasoline reserves are topped off, make sure those things are in order, just in case you need them should the grid go down for a moment, you know.
So before you came on here, I was talking about a Peter Schiff text. I don't know if you saw it, but
yeah.
Okay, you saw that. What are your? It's been a while since we talked. What are your takes on the price suppression? Is it just a simple matter of supply and demand, and you have weak hands selling into these massive corporations more than they're buying? Is that possible? What's your take on it these days?
I think that this is you know, these larger accumulators are using algorithmic systems to basically buy the crypto during the chop. As long as we chop or have a degree of chop in Bitcoin's price, it's really easy to mask those massive buys and not cause a large run up on Bitcoin. I think that there's a desk manager that I do shows with occasionally that worked at Citadel, and they would do the same type of actions on gold and things of that nature that were highly sought after, and the market knew that they were highly sought after and they were good investments, but they didn't want to make it obvious to the average person that they were hammering into positions. So they would just utilize the chop of the chart and algorithms to, and this was back in, you know, 2000s, even, you know, to a degree, versions of it in the 90s. But yeah, he made it very, very clear that it's basically as long as the market chops, they can use algorithms to stack their purchases in for what their customers are buying, and then not really be seen by the larger public on a chart perspective.
So what's the goal of that, though, for that company to buy something that they don't want to affect the price?
To take it all off the market. I mean, they want to, you know, end up with as little retail as possible holding Bitcoin, in my opinion. You know, I think that that's the
Mission
overall goal
accomplished.
here. And yeah, I mean, it's working, right? And you support the market, this shelf moments, and then you pump up again off the crash. It's very, very institutionally designed, this market. So, you know, I'm not getting shook out by it. Really, I feel very, very strongly about Bitcoin. Alts, they've presented their opportunities to me over the last 2 years. And, you know, I was able to take some good profits off of random AVAX ecosystem plays, and added a lot more tether. And then I had that tether on hand for last night, so I could blast into more Bitcoin. I think that that's what the mindset that you know, people are very, very bearish because they've gotten the long-term altcoin mindset instead of just having a calm, controlled, long-term Bitcoin mindset. I think that, you know, that fever pitch of trying to hit the 50x on 3 different alts this cycle and buying a new house with Cardano or something like that, it's kind of gotten people a little bit confused on why the market hasn't run these. You know, and Cardano's not a VC coin, But a lot of these alts have VC backing that literally is just constant dumping on our heads, you know. And even some of the best ones out there, like Chainlink, has VC institute, like, old school bags that are dumping on heads, and it's one of the most utilized altcoins out there, and its price is absolute garbage. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit maddening. That's why I've had to shift into trading, and obviously I have those alts, but my current favorite projects are Bitcoin and Tether. For sure, right now.
I've heard that a lot, actually. People shifting into trading due to lack of price movement or their expectation of alts. So they're kind of like throwing their own fuel on the fire to try to get that bull run alpha right out before, I don't know, before we see what happens, whether it tops or not. But a lot of people are doing that. I think it's so dangerous. How's it been going
It
for you?
is. I mean, it's been still going great, honestly. I talked to you when it was starting to go good. These last few months, man, have been some of the most profitable months in my entire crypto career, So, but it's about, you have to kind of separate emotionally from money. It's not about dollar values anymore. It's about percentages gained, percentages lost. Um, and I think a lot of people get wrecked in trading because they look at someone that's out there trading and they're like, oh, he's putting his whole bag on the front line and he's going and leveraging his whole bag. And the real way that I started trading was with a fraction of a percent of my whole bag, and it's now grown to, I think around 20-25% of my whole bag, so it's about going in there very lean, fighting very lean, and then because if you are getting started trading, you're gonna get beat up. There is no denying. Like, the charts are a very, very, very chaotic place to utilize leverage on. And for instance, like right now, I saw late into the night that we were starting to pump back up, so I did clip a long in on Bitcoin at 104 or like 103.8. And it's going good so far, but I put a stop loss above the entry point. So, oh, okay. Got to turn the air off for the baby. This is where, like, people kind of they can get lost in the greed. Like, they think that they can get lost in the altcoin greed. Boy, howdy, you can get lost in the abyss of greed when it comes to trading. You have to be really, really conservative, because you're looking at the option like, man, I could make 100% today. And sure, like, I've had some days where I make 400%. I've had some weeks where I made 700% on a singular trade. But it's about, like, just setting the stop loss above the entry point. Like, sure, you can nail the bottom, but if you want to have a life and to take care of your family and to not be sitting there zoomed in on the chart all day watching and babying that trade, then you're gonna have to use risk mitigation of some sort. And so, me, like, when I have a trade start to go well, I just put the stop loss slightly above entry, and then set basic targets. Like, from this 104 spot, I feel like the fog of what's going on is still going on, so it's definitely kind of dangerous. And really, the only juice I'm looking for is like up to like maybe 106. I could see that happening, but it's going to be very, very choppy. But I love the choppy zones to put trades in. It's basically impossible for me to effectively put a trade in when we're up only. So that's kind of, I'm taking advantage of these time frames for sure.
One of my new theories I'm kind of percolating in the mind is this: what we were talking about earlier with the massive institutions playing this algorithmic koi purchasing game, relying on retail to pump their bags. Let's just say, if they don't want the price to move and they want to get it all before retail, I think maybe one of their end game is that, well, we'll get our position in and then we'll release the hounds and we'll let retail FOMO in. But my theory is that the joke may be on them and there will be no retail FOMO and they will be holding their own bag.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, retail is more concerned with Taylor Swift than Bitcoin right now, and we're sitting here having above $100,000. So
It's crazy.
that stat, yeah, that stat in and of itself makes me sit there and scratch my head every day. Bitcoin, I think, it has a larger conversation 10 or 20 years from now where it's helping secure infrastructure, where I feel like data security proven Bitcoin blocks are going to kind of evolve into a much larger use case than, I've been starting to try to wrap my head around this for the last 2 years after that Jason Lowery software book, software book came out.
It's a life
Um,
changer.
yeah, I mean, it's a lot to think about especially when we talk about the current threats to nation states and the current intentions of these nation states. It is a lot to think about. How do you secure how do you secure data sets? How do you secure your infrastructure so that your society, because our society is completely hooked online. So if you as a country lose that online presence, if you lose those online systems, your banking goes down, your utility systems. We've gone from analog to digital in a lot of ways, and it leaves us at risk of failure if they don't upgrade that. So, maybe we get nation state FOMO or not. I could see at the very least the United States utilizing Bitcoin to bolster its data infrastructure, because we're dealing with quantum computing being developed and a lot of other things. So, that's just what's on my mind. We're going to get Biscuit Belly, baby. My daughter's
Yeah,
asking
I
me where
think
we're going.
one of the black swans. I guess it's not a black swan because we all know it's here. But I think the actual ramifications and consequences of AI is not really catching our entire uh, ethos. It's such a massive shift in humanity. It's amazing what's going to be this next few years, because everybody. I remember in 2020. People saying electric cars will never come here. They'll never be robot cars. They'll never be this or that. And if it is, it'll be in 20 years, right? So our sense of time is so skewed. 5 years later, Austin's rolling out, LA's rolling out all these robot taxis, and then it's just going to go faster and faster and faster. And then all these jobs just poof, gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny going to Vegas. Did you notice how many of those robo taxis? I'm super sad I missed you in Vegas too, by the way.
I never left
Um,
the hotel, so I wouldn't know.
oh, okay, that's why. Okay. Yeah, there's robo taxis rolling out all over the place. I think job displacement is, it's on the horizon. Corporations are going to do it. They love profits over people. It's clear that they're going to automate as much as they can to get rid of as many people as they can, to me. But AI, it does present a great investment opportunity over the next 10 years. And if you play it the right way, if you buy the right stocks, even, um, you know, there's some pretty big things coming to this world, and I think we can take advantage of it monetarily now. From the standpoint of people that don't know what the hell's going on, other than that there's a robo taxi and a robo waitress, and they're just going to get pissed about it. I think they got a very brutal awakening coming over the next 10 years.
I've actually radically shifted my whole parenting structure. So before, I've never really cared about the indoctrination system, which is the school system in Canada, as far as Duke, who's turning 10 pretty soon. I don't really care what happens because it's not going to prepare him for life in the world. But even more so, I left this little window open for him to do whatever you want to do with your life as far as your passion goes, that's what you should pursue, thinking
Yeah.
there'd be more
Uh,
opportunity for, typical human jobs. But I think by the time he's 18, 19, even, you know, if let's say he becomes this great piano player, it won't matter because there'll be AI everywhere. So I've totally shifted into just teaching him financial literacy and how to invest. That's it. The only hope for these kids in the future is financial literacy and investment.
100%, man. 100%. You're looking down the right path here. Well, I'm gonna hop in here. I don't know if you can see, but I'm gonna bring all the munchkins in, and we're gonna get some breakfast. But I was really glad to be able to hop on to your show here, man, and talk to you again, Matty B. I missed
Yeah,
you,
thanks
man.
for
So,
coming on. Have a good day down
all
there
right,
in
brother.
Georgia. Stay safe.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
Make sure you like and subscribe.